All right, we're good. Welcome everybody to another episode of our live Q&A show on Fridays, our Puget Systems podcast. Today we're joined by the viral VFX superstar, Julian Bass. Welcome. Thank you very much for taking your time out of the day to join us today. I'm really, really excited. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I always like to start off, just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, which I'm pretty sure most everybody ought to. Go ahead, introduce yourself, give us a little background who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi, I'm Julian Bass, and I've been doing visual effects and just filmmaking in general from the wee old age of 11. And recently, or last year, had like one of the times of my life. Had a video just go mega viral, and then all the eyes were just on me for a moment, and seemingly haven't gone away, which is a great thing. But it's been a long journey, and there's a lot more to go. I'm 20 years old, so I'm talking like, oh yeah, it's been a long journey as I've traveled through the ages. But
9 years is quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I've just sort of been building to each moment, each stepping stone as I go.
That's awesome. So that's great. So actually, I'm glad. Obviously, I think the kind of obvious question is, since that really blew up, you got retweeted by, I think, the chairman or CEO of Disney and a bunch of other celebrities and things like that. How has that altered like what you thought of like maybe your trajectory of life and things?
Yeah. So, I think about like a year ago today, I was working at GCPS TV, commuting an hour and a half every day to go to Georgia State and then coming back home. And right now I'm in San Jose in a house that, I'm working with my favorite people. This whole scenario right now was not even in my mind before July. The 4th of July was really like when everything kind of happened. My idea was that I was going to use VFX to sort of kind of break into the industry in a way.
Okay.
Because it was just, I went to Georgia State. I was the only person who knew how to do it. I went, I was coming out of high school with like that skill, and it was like, who else can VFX? And they were like, no, they were all wanted to do cinematography or write and direct and like everybody else. So there was a million directors in the film major courses, and like the one VFX guy who can make the production value look great.
Right.
And that's sort of what I brought to the table. And so at the same time, I was like, I could do that, and then I could weave my way as an actor and do that, and then I can sort of write my own things, and as I come up through there, I can just kind of back pocket this and be like, hey, check this out. This is something I wrote. July 3rd happens, and they're all like, hey, we want to hear what you got. And I'm like, oh, the things I was saving for like 20 years later? Yeah, sure. I wrote this script, and I wrote this, and here's a movie. And all of that just happened in just a moment. Cool. And it's like everything I'd been preparing for just happened way faster than I was expecting. No regrets.
Awesome. That's cool. So I guess the idea wasn't necessarily to dig deep into VFX. You're kind of trying to take a different track to get around there.
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't like see VFX and was like, I want to do VFX. I saw like superheroes and wanted to be a superhero. So when I was making like videos when I was younger, I sort of just learned VFX for that reason, right? Like I wanted to do a video where I had like lightning in my hand. And so I was going to put lightning in my hand. Like I looked it up on YouTube, like looked it up how to do it. And I was like, oh, what is After Effects? I've never heard of that before. All this stuff that like sort of just snowballed into learning all these I was literally just subconsciously learning all these good VFX techniques. Yeah. And it translated really well. And that was really just what I had against everybody coming up. because I spent so much time with it so young.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, I guess we kind of touched on this already, but has your VFX work changed since blowing up and stuff?
Yeah, I was doing a lot more like I did a video where it was I think like the last YouTube video that I did that was like VFX heavy was I think anime basketball, and I was doing like YouTube videos like shorts, 3-5 minute videos. I was submitting to film fests and things. I was doing all that, and then TikTok came and kind of changed that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was working and going to school at the same time, and so I had I just didn't have as much time to do like the longer. I say longer form, but longer form, short form. So it's not like the 10-second TikTok. It's like the 2-minute YouTube video. So I didn't have time to really do those, but I had time to like practice on TikTok. And that's when I saw like just the rise in the engagement. And at the time there weren't like that many editors on or like VFX people on TikTok. So I was like, okay, kind of breaking the mold. Ended up doing this event called the Edit War with another editor, and out of the woods they just all came, and all the editors were like joining sides, and like it was crazy. It was like this really cool, almost kind of like a little bit of a renaissance of like VFX people, like kids getting into it and more experienced people finding their way on the app. And yeah, so it's changed immensely what I do now with VFX, because it's for a different audience. It's for a different time frame. It's just a lot of different stuff, and there's not much subtlety as much as I'd want there to be. But it's a lot of in your face and flashy stuff. So
yeah. So that brings up an interesting point. How, like, I guess the workflow from like idea to finished product, how is it different making like YouTube videos versus TikTok?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it just takes my process is all over the place sometimes, but I can say that there's definitely a lot more planning that goes into like a YouTube video, and you just don't want to shoot the same thing over and over again. Whereas with TikTok, if you're doing it 10 seconds, you can do the shoot, edit it, literally look at it and go, I'm going to shoot that again. I was literally shooting a lot of these videos. There was that room before I had moved right outside my bedroom door. And if I turned like all the lights on, it would look like daytime. So I could shoot a video at 1 a.m. and like have it out at 5 p.m. Yeah. It was like a short like Ben 10 or like a transition or something like that. Yeah. So it's a lot more like on call. Like it's like I'm trying to find the word for it. It's like
demand? You can have
It's like you think of it, you do it, and it's like boom, done. Whereas like the YouTube videos, I'm like, okay, like how do I brainstorm this? What's the script? Like what's the the breakdown of this stuff? I'll sometimes even map out and preset certain effects beforehand. But with TikTok, it's just like it comes up and you just go for it.
Do you find you're a lot more impulsive with the TikTok content, or do you have like a main theme like all the time?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten less impulsive, which I think might be a bad thing. I used to be much more impulsive when I wasn't getting paid to do it, or I wasn't like, working auxiliary to TikTok. Sure. And so I used to just kind of be like, hey, this would be a cool effect, let me do it. And now when I think about something, I'm like, should I tell like an agent about this who's going to then reroute me to somebody here who can get me like paid for it? Or should I just do it? There's been so few projects that I've just done because I wanted to as of late. And I think that that's something that I need to probably get more into. I haven't posted a TikTok it's still February, so it's been a few weeks.
Sure.
But it just feels like last year I was just like on it every every couple weeks. And then there was a time though where, it'd be a few months before I'd post. And it seems like outside looking in, it seems like it was taking me months to complete.
Sure.
But it was really just like, I'm waiting for a solid idea, waiting for something that energizes me,
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened with the Favorite Heroes, the one that blew up. I hadn't
Yeah.
posted since May, and then here comes June, and I was like, you know what? I have an idea. I've been ruminating on this for a little bit, but I think I have the perfect song. Thanks, Harry Styles.
That's cool. I'm curious too, as well. Now that you're kind of big and famous, and you're having these interactions with, I imagine Hollywood types and things like that. Does that affect the sort of content that you think you can create? Like, are you afraid Disney's going to come down on you for making a Spider-Man video or something?
Not really. It's so like, I think I wouldn't like pitch them a Spider-Man video because they would be like, yeah, I don't think we could do that.
Sure.
But I have this like deal with them where it's like my content is still independent to me. So
Okay.
It's almost like how an actor on one of like the Marvel movies can like dress up as whoever they want for Halloween.
Okay.
Just don't like, make an event, like show up to like a DC Comics event, like it's one of those. It's one of those things where I'm not like really locked down into anything as long as I'm like a good person, which I think I believe I am. I'd like to think so. I don't think I'm gonna like do anything off the rails or crazy that'll anger anybody. But we'll see. I just posted a video actually of me wearing this like Winnie the Pooh mascot head. Ooh. And skateboarding, and I think that Winnie the Pooh is a Disney property, right? So
I believe so.
If they put the hammer down, then we'll have our answer. But
Okay.
otherwise, I mean, it's like it's whatever, it's what Julian's doing. So that's fair.
That's pretty neat. So, I guess can you talk a little bit about what the future looks like for Julian Bass?
Yeah. There's a lot that's going on at the same time, and it's like while I'm doing like the promotional stuff, TikTok, Instagram, social media, at the same time that's going on, there's also like certain scripts and certain projects that like longer form things, TV series, movies that we're pushing out. And then at the same time as that, there's me doing voice acting reads. There's me doing just reads for acting in general. And then, of course, all the general meetings with everybody. And there's just so much. So the future looks bright, awesome. But a little too bright because I can't see exactly what I'm trying to pin. But there's been a few things. I've booked a few things. It's just like waiting for sort of the film industry as a whole, as of course the pandemic is like,
sure.
I bet I would have I've never been to LA, believe it or not. But I bet I would have been there had this pandemic not been a thing. If in the midst of all this like commotion, I would have had a lot of these meetings in person, but they're all over Zoom now. And everything is just like, it's just changed. And so I've had to wait a lot. I've like I said, I booked like a couple like a role or so that they're like, I don't even know if we're making this movie.
Oh wow.
Because right now it's like they only make the movies that have to be made, like they'll make the Marvel movies, they'll make the sequel movies, but your like smaller productions are slowly starting to get back into into the swing of things. But they're like, yeah, we're not going to halt on Mission Impossible or any like subsequent Star Wars thing, or I mean they'll find a way because those are like the money makers.
Sure.
So that's what I was told that it's like, Julian, they'll make the movies they have to make before they can branch out, and sort of that's like the little bit of the battle, but it's clearing up.
Awesome.
It's clearing up. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I wanted to mention how does it feel to be where people are pushing, they want you to be Miles Morales?
Yeah. That feels insane.
I bet that's got to be super cool, especially as a fan of Spider-Man.
I'm the biggest fan of Spider-Man that exists anywhere ever. I I remember there was a time where I went to New York, and that's where my whole family and everybody's from New York, so I visit there before we moved to Georgia. But I was visiting, and there was this shirt. I got this cool little shirt. It had like this Spider-Man design on it, and I was like, "This is awesome! This is so cool! I love this shirt." And I would wear it like all the time, every day. I wore it for like years and years and years till I grew out of it, but didn't know that was the design for Miles Morales until like 2 years in. That was like
the spray painted one.
It was the red and black like V. It almost looked like a V-neck kind of design. That was like the original design. And I was just wearing it like oh yeah, this is way cooler than until one of my friends brought it up. I was like, oh, that's really cool, Julian. You're wearing the Miles Morales. I was like, who is that? And then began my journey. And then getting to see him on screen animated was just like amazing. And then to hear people be like, hey, you should be Spider-Man. I'm like, me? I'm just a kid from somewhere. I can't be Spider-Man. And then they're like, that's what Miles would say. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How am I supposed to be, but there's a lot of it's like, oh my gosh, just this is one of those dream come true things, for anybody who's like a fan of something and just gets to be a part of it. Heck, I would be happy being the extra classroom student in the back who raises his hand for like the one scene at the end of the Marvel movie. And the teacher goes, Miles, and then that's it. I don't have a line, and they're like, Miles, like, and everybody's like, oh, that's all. But
that would be neat.
But yeah, I've been speaking with the folks over at Marvel, and so that's all I'm gonna say because I don't know what I'm allowed to say.
I understand. Yeah. In the tech industry, I have to dance around things that I have to be sure, like, wait, was I told something NDA? Can I say that? And so yeah. Just better not to say anything.
Yeah, they told me, they were like, yeah, you can mention that you've talked to us, but don't go too far. And I was like, okay, all right.
So you don't know the title of the new Spider-Man movie or anything?
Yeah, there's nothing about Spider-Man that I can say about anything.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that guy is. Who is Spider?
Nah.
Never heard.
So you recently put out a bit of a vlog which mentioned Puget Systems. Very nice, thank you. And what kind of blew my mind was the 5 months in 2 days comment. So the deep fake, you were crunching on that for 5 months on your previous machine, and so did you start all over with the new machine? And it
I started from 0 iterations. So I did this video where I was trying to deep fake 2 seconds of deep fake. And this is unbelievable. For like to get my face to be like Will Smith for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it took forever. I didn't think that it would take that long. But yeah, I'm running this thing, for 5 months on my this old computer, and like, oh gosh, it still didn't like look as good as the Puget version. It was not as clean yet. Wow. I was able to get to like 100, and you're supposed to get to like 150,000 iterations. I did 200,000 iterations on the Puget computer in like 2 days, and I couldn't believe it. And one of the things, so when I was learning to deepfake, one of the things that I kept hearing was like, oh, it's trial and error. How am I supposed to do trial and error like 2 times a year? Right? What? That's impossible. I was really blown. I was like, there's no way they expect me to do trial and error, having to wait for this results like this. But I ran the deepfake about 4 or 5 different times on this same computer. while the other one was still running just for the fun of it. But I ran it like a bunch of times, was able to do trial and error, able to learn what certain things do. And then I was like, well, I have extra time. Why don't I try all the different types of like styles of deepfake? So there's like the you can do like the avatar version, you can do the I'm forgetting the names of these. All right, it's been forever. But let me think. I know the name of it. I'm gonna look it up right now.
That's right.
I'm gonna find it.
I'm not too knowledgeable on it myself, or I would help out.
I use Deepface Lab, which is, I guess, it's like one of like the best ones that they use. But there's, I think, 7 different. Oh, here it is. Yeah, there we go. All right. So there's conversions that you can do. You can do SAE, HD, Quick 96, and then Avatar also. And I was like, I don't know what the difference is between all of these. And I was able to go through all of them and just try it. Just like see what changes. I was able to see, oh, what if I did the half face? What if I did the full? And what if I did this, that, and the other? Just a crazy experience. Really, like, I wasn't super like well versed with computers prior, and so I had sort of been just kind of, I was like, and people would assume that I was. That's the other thing. That I was good at. They were like, "Hey, Julian, you made that art on the computer. Can you like help fix my computer?" I'm like, first of all, never used the Windows computer before. Second of all, I don't even know what the problem is here. They were like opening command prompt and stuff. I was like, what is this? And terminal and stuff. I didn't know any of it. And I had to like learn what RAM was. That's how like much I didn't know. I was editing videos for years. Didn't know what RAM was. Well,
hey,
I was like, I don't know. And that's it. That's all I knew.
Well, and I mean, I don't know how I couldn't fix a drill, even though I use one. Like, it's similar. It's a tool for you. Like, it's not your job to have to know how it works, as long as it does work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's also been super helpful. Like, now knowing, once I started pushing the limits, and that's something I always wanted to do. And I guess it makes sense that, when I was younger and trying effects for the first time, I wasn't really pushing it to its farthest. But once you start getting into AI and especially even starting to do stuff in Blender 3D and stuff like that, that's when it piles on. That's when it gets a little heavier to do. And that's when I learn. It's just a lot more reading than I expected to ever do as an artist. But you would expect there to be video tutorials, right, for everything.
Just about.
But I ended up finding myself on forums more so than on a video, which is, it's
interesting to hear.
Yeah, I would have never thought. I started to, I got to the point where I would Google things and then scroll down to the part where there'd be like the Q&As from certain forums.
Oh yeah.
And I just go through those and read on like Adobe's website and stuff, and just read. And it sort of made me think back to like the times when like my teachers and stuff would be like, oh, reading will never leave you. And I'm like, what? I can do art. What do I need to read for? I can find video tutorials for a guy that talks to me and tells me what I have to do, and like pictures and stuff. But here I am finding information that I didn't know I couldn't find in a video, or found faster on a page than I did on a video. So yeah, it's been a crazy experience with this computer. This is awesome. Like, this thing's a monster.
Yeah, I love it. So early on, I kind of came to the idea that like Puget sells time, right? Like, and I think your example of the deepfake is probably one of the best examples of that. Like 5 months versus 2 days. How many projects could you have been doing in those 5 months where your computer was crunching these numbers versus, or and that's just, it's incredible. I think that's amazing, the difference there.
Yeah, I think and that's that precisely that. How many projects could I? It's like opportunity cost. I
Mhm.
literally had. So I was doing this initially on an iMac, so it was like running iOS, but I also
Mhm.
had Boot Camp to run Windows.
Right.
So I would edit. I had After Effects and everything on the Apple side, and then I had the Deep Face Lab and a couple of other like programs on the Windows side, because I couldn't run 32-bit applications anymore with the new
Oh.
iOS.
Mhm.
Who knew? And I was like, why did you do that? And they were like, well, because we're Apple, buy it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I would use Final Cut though, like all the time. And so I was like, all right, I need this thing. When I'm running the deepfake, I can't edit my other videos.
Right.
I'd have to stop it, restart the computer, go back into the Boot Camp Assistant, and go open the iOS. There was quite literally the opportunity cost of me not being able to use the computer and running the deepfake. So I couldn't do anything at all. As soon as I opened another application, it would slow down immensely.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's heavy duty stuff. That's hardcore AI challenge
Yeah.
with the deepfake stuff is intense. But that hits on an interesting thing. Are there now, having the power that you do, are there like ideas or projects that you can do now that you wouldn't be able to before?
Oh yeah, definitely. There was actually a project I was doing and this is something I'm going to actually pick up on this computer. There was a project I was doing in back at Georgia State. It was a project with it was like it was for a film fest, right?
Okay.
And so we did this. We were planning to do this effect where it was using EB synth to turn sort of like paintings into moving like video. And so what we would do is we'd like mask out a person like moving. We'd use like AI to merge like a paint stroke or like a landscape or something to merge that with the image. And then you could use EB synth to sort of synthesize the in-between frames. And
Okay.
it would literally be like a moving painting. And so using that like process and having to do all this masking and stuff, EB synth ran extremely slow, of course,
Sure.
because I wasn't running it properly on the right system. But I remember doing I did a part of the deepfake when I was learning and just trying to train it in EB synth. I did like one pass of it, and it was just like that again. It's just another one of those like really quick things that just blew me away, that I thought I had to get up and walk away from, and then came back and it was like, oh, it was done like 30 minutes ago when I started it. Okay. I thought I was gonna have to wait. But that's a project that we never got to finish. Oh, the mic. That's a project we never got to finish because we ran out of time.
Sure.
The effect just took too long. And that was like, it's like such a big hit because I really put like everything I had into this thing. And like, it was the first time I had ever really like failed at like completing a project like that. I had like I had people on board and folks helping me out, and oh man, it just like, it like really hurt. And I didn't want to like have to look at the prod or even think about it. But then EB synth, kind of came back into my mind, and then the idea sort of like revamped. And there's definitely ways to really make it new. And so
Cool.
yeah, with the power that this has, there's way more that I can do with that. Especially as it pertains to AI. And I'm getting into Blender now too. So that's the other thing. So there's the AI stuff, and then there's the 3D that accompanies it, and that's turning out great. There's a project that I'm doing right now where I'm using, I don't know if you've heard of this. It's PIFUHD, and it can basically it's a code that can take a picture of a human being, and turn it into a 3D mesh.
Oh, cool.
Just like
From
the
one
photo. From one,
nice.
yeah. And it gets like the 360. I don't know how it works. I really have no clue. But I was going through like this breakdown and demonstration of it to basically follow it kind of like a tutorial. And I'm using that. Oh my goodness. I'm using that to self-fracture myself and like break myself into like pieces.
Oh, neat.
And so just the whole world of like creating CG body doubles is a lot easier now.
Awesome.
Not something without outside of my reach. I don't have to model my entire figure.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing to hear from just one photo, because I've on the fringes of like photogrammetry, where you'll take a whole bunch of pictures like all around a thing, and then it'll put it together into the point cloud or 3D mesh, and from there you can play around with it. So that's kind of mind-blowing from just a single photograph, that it can give you like the depth and all of that.
Yeah, you would be surprised with some of the results and I would think that let me see if there's like a page here too. But yeah, there's like the detail and just I don't even know how it gets the backs of people. Like there's a woman wearing like a skirt here, there's a guy wearing a suit, and it's got like the wrinkles of him pinching the suit together in his arm. And he's got his hair, like it's everything. Wow. It's really got the whole thing. And it's like one of his legs is in front of the other. Like his legs are crossed and it's still getting the other leg behind it.
Man.
Yeah. It's insane. So cool. Yeah. I could probably drop a link to like the site too.
Yeah, sure.
I want to see the let me so is that something I would drop like in this little chat box here?
There should be a button for private chat, I think.
Yeah. All right.
In there.
Yeah.
And then I can share it out to everybody else.
Yep.
Oh, wow. And I'll share this out to everybody too. Boop. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm always fascinated with the things people are doing, because I think the general public just assumes AI is like robot overlords, right? They see the Boston Dynamics stuff, and they're like, AI and Skynet, but they don't, or it's just so subtle these days, where like your phone knows that you're trying to take a picture of a landscape, so it automatically changes how the depth of field and stuff, things like that. That's all AI. That's from millions and millions of photographs being taken, and it's incredible the things that they're doing.
They're finally adding AI to the Adobe programs.
Their Sensei thing is really crazy powerful. Like they're just content aware fill in Photoshop and After Effects.
Yeah. The After Effects one blew me away. Right. I was like, how? It's a video. How in the moving cameras and stuff going in front?
I think that's probably the biggest part, is like the tracking. Like you cut out a balloon or something, you don't want that there as you're sweeping across a building, and it knows to keep taking that out. And
that's unreal. I found a lot of success with the new Roto Brush that they powered with Adobe Sensei, the Roto Brush 2. It is a game changer. It's a lifesaver and a game changer. There's been projects that I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this. That Will Smith project, because I was doing like the deepfake, and I was like, okay, this is going to take me like a whole year to finish. Sure. I started this project before Roto Brush 2 came out. Okay. And so I was literally going frame by frame to do the clones in this video, which turned out like the best clones I've ever done. And they're like passing in front of each other and doing all this stuff. I started this project with Roto Brush 1, and then like as time went by, as I'm like waiting on the deepfake, Roto Brush 2 comes along, and then by now I have this Puget computer. I did that all in just like one go, and was able to kind of do all of that work that I did prior with Roto Brush 2 like in just a second. It's the AI. It's so smart. It's insane.
Oh man, that's cool to hear. So we actually have a question from YouTube from It's Ya Boy, talking about EB Synth. He asks, how hard is EB Synth to run on somewhat recent hardware, and how does it scale in terms of the graphics when moving from, let's say, stick figures to full-blown art?
Okay, yeah, I think so EB Synth definitely gets the job done. Especially if you're on like recent hardware, it'll do its thing. Like, but in the same way that the iMac would complete an EB Synth thing too, but this, having like something built for it would just really streamline that. Like we were talking about, like time.
Yeah.
And how does it scale in terms of graphics? I think I need you to explain a little bit more, like stick figures to full blown art. I think what I used it for was basically taking, say, like my face, and I say, "Hey guys, I'm Julian," and there's like, and I took like, I don't know, Starry Night from Vincent van Gogh,
Okay.
and I used a separate AI. I didn't use EB Synth for this, but I used a separate AI to sort of merge like the picture, like one frame of my face doing that. And then what EB Synth does is it takes that reference image and applies it to the rest of the frame. So you'll export your video in like a sequence. So you'll have like all the frames of your footage, drop those into EB Synth, and then it will take that one reference. And they have a demo actually on their website where it's this guy walking, and it's like they just used a painted version of him. But using it in conjunction with AI. I don't know if you've seen, have you seen those images of like people taking like spaghetti and like it's like synthesized into like another image?
Oh, sure. Yeah, where to like be like a dog face in there somewhere.
Yeah, right. And that's basically using that AI to do that. So imagine if you took that one spaghetti image and say the dog image was the first sequence in a video. EB Synth would be able to make a video out of the rest of that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's an insane one. I can actually drop a link to EB Synth in the thing.
Sure. Yeah, that's wow. Again, just incredible advancements in technology and machine learning is just mind blowing.
On that homepage, it really shows you what it's able to do, and oh man, it's just a beautiful.
Yeah, I want to check this out myself. Actually, give me just a second. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. Wow.
Yeah. And so one of the things that they would recommend you do is like you paint the frame yourself, but if you're not a painter, that's where the AI comes in and like can supplement that. But yeah, it's pretty.
Wow. That is cool. So you say you've been doing this since you were 11. What sort of, I guess, do you have advice for beginners, that sort of a thing? What are some of the things that you've really taken away from your experience with VFX?
Yeah. There's a few things actually. I think the first thing I would say is VFX is like any other art. And art is just like any other passion. It's one of those things that you're like, you can get easily discouraged from doing. Like anything you're passionate about, it's easier. There's always like the playing it safe, like, ways to get discouraged in what you're doing. So I like, as cliche as it sounds, like the first and foremost thing is to like never give up. And it's way easier to do when you're actually doing something you love to do.
Yeah.
So like, that's why, when people are like, "Oh, Julian, I want to do like exactly what you do." And I'm like, "Do you?" Because if you don't, like, if you want to be like a performer and like act in things, right, and maybe don't want to actually do the VFX, but you see the final product and you're like, "Oh, it'd be cool to be like the superhero guy getting the recognition for it." That would be, then you'd have to like gear yourself towards what you really want to do. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable behind the computer, like, Like, this is taking too long. I don't know how Julian does it, blah, blah, blah. And like, you're just going to give up. And there's like, you're not going to get a hit the first time you go. I mean, maybe you do. Hey, I don't know. But I've just been doing it for so long, and you can't really just live off of that one hit. You got to be consistent. Otherwise it's like, I mean, otherwise, and it's no pressure. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, if I made that favorite heroes video and was like, yeah, that's going to be the last TikTok I ever make ever, because I want to be a baker. So, you know, bye. Like, it's no big deal. Like, you can't let everybody else's expectations of what they want you to be make you who you are. It's up to you to decide. And so that's one of the big takeaways, is just don't get discouraged. And that comes in a lot of different forms. I think that's another thing to watch out for, because it's not always going to be, and it sometimes won't ever be, people saying that you can't do something. Sometimes it's your family. Sometimes it's your family saying, it'd be better to, you know, play it safe and do this instead. Or maybe, like, you know, don't do this for, you know, for whatever reason, or they're encouraging you to do other things that aren't exactly in line with what you want. That's one of the things that I had to kind of go through a little bit. My mom, of course, like I said, was an educator. And so she was like, you know, like, education. You know, go to college. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go. And I went there to basically learn things that I already knew, and came out with nothing. And so I was like, look, everybody's different. You know, she has a PhD, but that's her. You know, right. I'm not her. We have different paths, different passions, different things we want to do. My brother, super academic. He's like, he wants to be an engineer. That's what he's gonna do, right? You know. And if say I was like the artist dad or whatever, and I was like, no, you know what, you should really lean into you know, making your own things, and you know, and maybe he just wanted to learn. So you got to be yourself. You got to keep doing what you got to do. And the other thing is, the last thing I would say is, there's always resources. There's never going to be an instance where you don't have the thing you need. There will be things that you'll want. Like, After Effects was something I wanted, but I was still going to create no matter what. Right. Okay. And I didn't have it for like the first maybe few years that I was starting out. Wow. So I would literally, there would be times where, you know, you'd pop open a tutorial and you'd see like After Effects and just close it immediately. It's like my housemate Isaac had the same experience. We talked about that. Just been like, yeah, before you had it, it's just like, was just like such a turn off. He'd be like, I need After Effects for this. But it didn't stop me. You know, there's always resources. And one of the things that I want to do, one of my goals, is making sure that people have access to some of the more necessary resources if they really want to do VFX and the things that I do, and really want to create art like this. I think that there's a tremendous amount of interest that just like when I'm Black. Surprise. What? I'm Black, and I didn't see anyone like me in VFX whatsoever. I didn't think that there was an interest for some reason among like young, you know, African Americans, people of color. I just assumed that I was the only one who wanted to do it. And becoming that beacon and seeing all the people who do want to do it, it makes it just like, oh my gosh, it's a resource thing. I'm lucky. And I, you know, had a computer to start with, and some people just don't have the thing to start. But you'll never be without it. And I think that like, if you really want it, you'll find your way. You know, you'll find like a computer to like rent, or you'll find a public library. And so I say this, there is a problem with the resources and how they're dispersed. And we were talking about education before this came on. There's a problem with how like how education's funded and things like that. but also if you're in a situation where you feel like you're being held back by the resources that you're provided, don't let that be the thing that stops you. So that's like how to, manage those two things. Like, don't let that be the thing. Like, if I didn't have a computer, I would just draw and make flip books. Before, that was what I was doing before I had a computer. I was just animating that way.
Wow.
Every Post-it notepad had some sort of drawing on it, whether it was a bouncing ball or a guy doing a backflip or somebody waving. And they just got more intricate. And then I started making comics and it was just like, art is art, you're going to find your way to do it, and make what you want. And never, oh my gosh, never throw away anything.
Ever. Oh yeah?
Yeah, never throw away. I made a comic when I was like in elementary school. It was this like 20-page thing. It was just all stick figures, and I only delineated like who was who by like one guy with a top hat and one guy was a hot dog. And so yeah, it was like this the weirdest story. It was called Payday, and it was this like homeless guy who like wins the lottery. Or no, he wins big at like Vegas or something. Instead of somebody giving him a coin, they give him like a token. And he wins the jackpot. And it turns out he's a superhero. And it turns out aliens invade. And awesome. Then space pirates were following the aliens who were looking for a new homeland. And then they like turned the Earth into a hot dog. And it was like a whole thing. I would have thrown this thing away, or should have, but I didn't. And I used it. I used that idea of the space pirates and the aliens and everything. What? Film fest. I ran the table with a film fest. I won I was nominated for like 6 out of the 7 awards and won 5 out of the 6.
Wow.
And the way that I used it was like, there was this kid who meets his favorite director and he's pitching him his movie idea. And as he's pitching it, it's that story. And it's like the director ends up stealing the idea in the end. It was just one of those things. I was like, gosh, I'm glad I never like got rid of that. It's just something that you can just recycle and call back to, and anything you create, hold on to it.
Oh, that's so neat. I love hearing that. That's funny. Oh man. Oh. Excuse me. I'm curious how difficult it was to move from Final Cut to, I imagine you use Premiere Pro now.
I have never in my life used Premiere Pro.
Oh my! I was just assuming.
I use AutoCAD, actually. Believe it or not. I should probably get into using Premiere Pro because there's actually a couple features that I will be making good use of pretty soon. But Final Cut, everything I do in After Effects, I just port over to Final Cut.
Okay.
And so I do like anything that's VFX intensive stays on Puget, and stays in After Effects stays here. But if I'm just like doing final composites or like sound effects and stuff, that's the other thing. I like the sound effects library that I have. It's just kind of like easy to use, and I don't have to worry about like licensing anything.
Sure.
So yeah, that's a weird thing that I don't think a lot of people know. I still use Final Cut, and was using it when I was working too, at GCPS TV.
Mm-hmm. Is it weird to like, how do you think that affects your like the overall workflow?
It is a bit strange. And one of the things that I was planning to do is just trying to like set up like a shared hard drive, so I don't have to like flash drive, like pull everything off and roll over to the other side of the desk for each project. And I could just like do it like sort of just all in one go. I don't know. It's what I'm most comfortable with.
Sure.
And I think that's the one thing I take away from it is just like, as long as like it gets the job done, and there's not like any like visible, I mean, like I said, like most people don't know anyway that I still use Final Cut. So I think it's the best thing to learn on, I think. If you're like starting out, it's super easy. But I also think that, like I said, there's features on Premiere Pro that I really could use. And so that's why I'm going to have to like learn it at least a bit. especially they added this new feature like where you could reframe like widescreen footage into like the iPhone like vertical.
Right.
Yeah, which is super, super helpful. And something that I'm actually gonna need to do as I start to get more vlogs off and want to just like put like clips of that onto like TikTok and stuff. I think they also have that in Adobe Rush too, so I might just do it there.
I think so.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, I'm kind of curious. How have you handled the fame, I suppose, or the exposure and stuff like? Because I imagine it could be easy to almost just run away from it.
Yeah, I think it's, and so I'm gonna say this. My experience isn't everybody else's experience.
Sure.
But it's been a phenomenal one. It has been like so easy to like just kind of ease into it. There's just the support system that kind of came from even like I have my parents, I have my family, and I have everybody else like around me, like my friends and family like that. But even like just the bigger names, like from off the back of that tweet, people who I've kept in touch with, like directors and things and actors and people who I'm like, I'm a huge fan. And they're like, yeah, I'm a fan of you too. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, get out of here. But everybody's just like came in to support. And I think that thankfully I wasn't like, no, I don't know how to handle this. And gosh, I'm scared. Fortunately, I just had a cool head about it. And I was able to like just hang in there. I don't know. A lot of people say that, and this is why I was prefacing what I said before. A lot of people will say that, like, the fame will change you, and all your friends will become enemies, and they'll always just want to get stuff from you, and watch out for this, that, and the other. And it hasn't been like that at all. Not even close. It could be the people I surround myself with, but also I don't think people are as intrinsically horrible as they seem, or as they're made out to seem. When people like talk about like these big companies and like Disney and all this, they're like, oh, they're evil, and it's like it's just people who work at a place. You ever been to Walmart? It's like I guess as an entity you can think that a company is maybe evil or does like certain things that I just think that once you get to be in it and you just realize that the people who are in this sort of larger film industry are filmmakers. And all they want to do is create, and sometimes they roll their eyes at like having to do certain things because of money, but we're all just trying to like do our best to like just make the things that we want to make at the end of the day. A little bit sorry about that. But yeah, at the end of the day, like it's all good. It's always been fantastic. This is a weird thing, but when I was in high school, they like voted me most likely to be famous. So I guess they called it. I mean, and so like that's one of the things that like we would be looking towards, or that they were looking forward to. And talking about, and I just like remember messing around with my friends being like, oh, sorry, I'm getting a phone call from Marvel Studios. Now I can't even joke about that anymore. I can't even like act like that's not a thing that happens. Wow. But yeah, it's been tremendous.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How neat. We have a couple more questions from YouTube. Love Joy Plus asks, what would Julian's dream voice acting role be?
That's a tough question, Lovejoy. I think my dream voice acting role, I want to play a villain, just any villain. Particularly, I think that I don't really come off as menacing on the camera, so I would have to like, I just know my voice can go there.
Yeah.
You know, like I can really, I have like a deep register in my voice and like a lot of versatility there. I just feel like it would come off a lot better if it was visualized as like an animated character.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and yeah, I just love animated villains. Love like Hades from
Ooh.
Hercules. Just
Yeah, yeah.
like not a conventional like deep villain voice. It's more of like a, you know, you're talking like this. You know, whatever, kill Hercules, whatever, do it, do what you gotta do. But it's like it comes off so well. It's just like when he blows up and gets mad, it's like, it's such like a range there. Instead of always being like big, angry, like Ganondorf type villain.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know if I have a particular one. But yeah, it's always the originals that are the greatest.
You kind of just my own little piece on this. You kind of went down like that, and it reminded me a lot of the old Batman, the animated series.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
It sounded almost on like super on point.
So the one thing when I used to like get into voice acting, it was like when I started doing this stuff, I used to do like fan dubs of like Kevin Conroy's Batman. Because I just would watch the animated series, watch Justice League, all the things that I familiarized myself with Kevin Conroy's Batman voice. So when people were like, do the Batman voice, they would think Christian Bale, and I would give them Kevin Conroy.
Right.
And so
to me, that is the Batman voice.
That is the perfect Batman voice.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Right?
When I think that like, I don't know, something about like, it just sounds right. It just sounds right. So I would only do Batman things, and just be all, "Where's Joker?" You know,
where are the detonators?
Yeah. This seems a little shallow for you, right, Clark? Diana.
It's God, great. It's so good. It was years ago. At Emerald City Comic Con, a bunch of voice actors, Pinky and the Brain, the guy who did Bender, Kevin Conroy, they did a table read of Star Wars, like the first few scenes out of A New Hope, as their different characters and stuff. And Kevin Conroy was the narrator. He would set the scene and things like that, and it was just so much fun.
Oh my goodness!
It's on YouTube if you look it up.
I gotta see that.
Yeah,
I watched. We just watched the documentary actually with John DiMaggio, the Bender, and he did a documentary called "I Know That Voice," where it was just like it's just like a documentary about voice actors and like just who they are and like getting to see their faces like for the first time. And gosh, it's voice acting such a rewarding thing. I think if like you have like an iconic voice, right, and you can at least like walk around and not be recognized and like have to, you know, have like a normal life, but still like surprise someone, be like, yeah, hey, I'm the voice of, I don't know, I'm the voice of Mr. Krabs,
right?
And like you just do it for someone, and then just like, I don't know, that seems like one of the most rewarding things ever.
Oh, for sure. And I imagine too, voice actors, like you mentioned, you can just kind of have a normal life. You don't have the public face. And so you just go about your day, and nobody's trying to shake your hand and take pictures and autographs and stuff. And
that's nice. Still go to amusement parks.
Right.
Like, get those before I book something.
So one final question, I think we can squeeze this one in. Espro Cali asked, have you used Blender? And you did mention you were starting to get into that. How's that been going?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I started using Blender because it was free, open source. And then I stopped using it for a while up until 2.8. So the big like kind of overhaul of the entire UI and everything. In Blender 2.8, it's almost like relearning a new thing. Because it's just so different, but much more friendly. So I'm sort of like on my journey again to relearn Blender, and I've used Blender for I'll be using Blender today to finalize an effect, which was what we were talking about, like PIFU HD. I think I'll just call it PIFU, but I don't know if that sounds disgusting. But I would use Blender to sort of like I used it for a couple of like Star Wars videos, and I use that in conjunction with Element 3D in After Effects, which is the best ever. That's from Video Copilot. They have like this plugin that you can do like import OBJ files and like edit 3D in After Effects.
Oh,
and
nice.
it really, it's unbelievable. You can do OBJ sequences, which is what I'm about to do. And just, if you've seen any of like, I did this video, for example, where I was just like, it was a Jimmy John's thing. I was like, yeah, it said a text bubble that said Jersey Mike's has the best subs. And then like I punched through it and like time freezes and it's like all these blocks as it like sort of pans around me. That was, I think, one of my more recent uses of Blender. That and Diamond Head doing a backflip in that Favorite Heroes video.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but, okay. Yeah,
there's a lot that After Effects can do. There's so much. Even now, like doing it's not smoke simulations, but particle simulations. You can do like fluid simulations with Trapcode Particular in After Effects, and doing like some Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of effects with that is, on the horizon.
Oh, cool. Oh, so there's a little sneak peek there. Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Oh, that'll be fun. Oh, right on. Well, let's see. Oh, yeah, that does put us just a touch over our hour. So we'll wrap it up. We'll say goodbye. Is there anything you'd like to mention, shout out, or anything like that before we go?
No, I'm all good. Just be on the lookout. I'll be around.
All right.
Be seeing my face some more.
Yeah, for sure. But so thank you very much, Julian, for taking the time out of the day joining us today. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm so excited for your future. It's really cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to the audience as well for joining us today. We have moved to just Fridays only, so but stay tuned. We every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and I guess we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Adios.